Right, good evening everyone, and thank you for joining us here in the main auditorium, where I am talking with three members of the Avilion community, who I hope are going to fill us in on this wonderful, very beautiful and quite old community of elves, merrows, and drow and assorted other folk as well. I'm joined by Cyric Freenote, by V Tamas, and by Susie LeFay. V and Cyric will be in voice, Susie will be in text, and I'll read out what she has to say. So, for the benefit of our cameras.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
So what I'm going to do to start with, I'm going to ask each of my three guests to introduce themselves and say a little about their role in the Avilion community. I'm going to start with B, and even though we might say ladies first, I'm then going to turn to Cyric, which will give Suze the maximum time to type her answer. So V, if you like to lead off.
Thank you, Saffia. I'm V Tamas, and I've been in Second Life for 6 years next week. I've been in Avilion for over almost 5 years, and my role there is twofold. I'm a proud gypsy of the Avilion clan of gypsies, and I'm also proudly a knight. I've been a knight for the past year, and that's really been an honor. So that's basically my role there. The gypsies, we're a group of performers. We also read tarot, we dance, play music, entertain in the group, plan events. And with the knights, I also work with combat especially against Cyric's group, the Rangers, or as we affectionately call them, the Featherheads. Yes, and we have combat to protect the land. We do role play. It's quite a complete land and community.
So, Cyric, perhaps you could tell me a little about your role?
Sure. I'm Cyric Freenote. I've been involved in Second Life since October of 2007, and was lucky enough to find Avilion in October of 2009. So I'm coming up on 4 years in Avilion. I'm one of the elves of Avilion, or the Quende of Avilion. I'm also very active in the Bards group, which is what do the Bards do? We perform music at events, we write poetry, we publish a mostly weekly publication called the Avilion Chronicle that, that chronicles, so a great name, everything that goes on in Avilion. I'm also, as V said, very active with the Rangers of Avilion in the combat events.
Right. And Suze, perhaps you could tell us a little about your role. Suze says, I'm Susie Stall, and I've been a Fae in Avilion for about 6 years. I started out as a 4-foot-tall pixie that danced around playing pranks and irritating people, but now I play a tax-happy bureaucrat who makes lots of red tape and irritates a lot of people. Now that's... Now, you raised a couple of things when in those opening answers, which I'd like to come back to. First of all, V, you were saying that there are conflicts and that the knights might take on the rangers. Do you actually have kind of internal conflicts, or do you sometimes have outside enemies who draw the community together, even if the outside enemies are actually secretly yourselves?
Well, we really don't have outside conflicts. It's more we create our own conflicts for practice. Our greater threat is from outside or role play outside groups or individuals who come and cause mayhem a little bit or havoc, and we stand together and protect Avilion.
Right.
But for our practice, we actually do combat against each other or dragons who breathe fire at us all the time, or the druids and magi who, attack us with their magical staffs, which sort of hurts.
I've seen an Avilion conflict, I think, and they actually freeze you, don't they? The magician's staves.
Yes. I've been frozen, fried, smothered in grass, had bees attack me, thunderstorms,
oh my goodness.
lightning. Yes, it's quite an assortment.
You look extremely well on it, I must say. It doesn't seem to have done any lasting damage, for which we must be relieved.
Yes,
what happens? Yeah.
She's not mentioning her 3-foot-long sword that she swings at anyone who approaches. So,
Well, I think that could be good against mages. I'm not so sure it's going to work terribly well on bees.
bees, that's true.
So, could you tell me something about the history of Avilion, how it comes to be?
Avilion was founded in 2006 by Serenity Seas and Malik Giles. Originally, I believe there was the first sim built was the Avilion Grove, and I think many people are familiar with the Avilion Grove Ballroom. That was built by Malik for Lady Serenity. Eventually, they decided to open it up to the public, and the community started to grow from there.
All right.
I guess we have about a dozen regions. Many are private. Some private, some public, and
You can see the private regions; they're part of it, but they're residential, aren't they?
They are. But there are 5 sims that are open to the public, with lots going on.
Right. So there's all sorts of activities as well. And people can choose one of a variety of roles, I think, to join with.
Oh, yes. Let's see, there are, how many racial groups? The elves, I guess there's humans,
Raise
humans,
my hand,
elves,
human, yay, yay for the human.
Fae, dragons. Many of our dragons roleplay as hatchies that are baby dragons.
All right.
Like to get into marrow and dragons, which in Avilion are frequently played as hatchies, which are baby dragons, who cause a lot of mischief and eat a lot of cookies. So that's kind of funny.
Yes.
And pixies, that's true. Yeah.
So do all these races have their own particular characteristics?
I would say that they do. Typically, you could take the drow, for example, are not going to be the friendliest bunch, with apologies to Lord Altarius and the audience there. But I'd say the elves tend to be more serious, a more serious group. Elves and drow are known for often thinking that we're kind of better than everyone else.
Right.
I guess the Fae and pixies and the hatchies tend to be a little wacky, a little crazy maybe, cause a lot of trouble. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, V?
Well, I don't know if you're a typical Quendi serious, but okay. But the gypsies are fun-loving, I will tell you that. The knights, though, were honorable, we're trustworthy, loyal, but we also like to have our own fun. And the Merrow are just, they're playful and entertaining, and they're lighthearted.
And underwater most of the time, I guess.
In the water most of the time, but they do have mare bubbles, which allow them to be on land.
That's very handy.
It's a creative way to have them involved in the entire community, so they can travel with us. Though the humans, we can't. The only thing I can tell you, I envy sometimes is we cannot fly. As a human, I cannot fly, and that sometimes I envy the Fae and the dragons because they can take flight.
Yes, it's wonderful to be able to do that. Suze was saying that the elves, someone said the pixies are adorable looking to keep you from killing them. And Suze says they're all irritating in their own special ways, as opposed to Fae, who really are better than everyone else.
Well, yes, and Susie would know because she is the topmost Fae there.
So you have a number of regions, some of which are public. So would you say that the community is a strong one?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also.
We're very close-knit. We also protect each other. And that's the beauty of being in Avilion, because when I first stumbled upon it, it was so enchanting, the beauty of it. But the people, it's the people that make the community. And we protect each other, we encourage visitors. But also, there are some crazy places in SL, as you know. And Avilion is a safe place to be at peace and enjoy.
That's great. Do you actually have a moderate rating or a PG rating?
I'm not sure what our official rating is off the top of my head. Moderate? Okay. I'd say that we do have a dress code for the Sims, which tends to be relatively conservative, I think.
Right.
We, encourage people to be respectful of others, and I think that Menkor in the audience said it well. It's a PG environment with a moderate rating. I think that we like to have fun, but I think that people really respect each other in Avilion, which is something that can be, unfortunately, rare elsewhere around the grid. I think especially folks feel like when they're kind of behind an avatar, they feel a little more bold, maybe a little more, maybe a little more open about their thoughts.
Which may not always be wise, yes.
Yeah. But I personally have found Avilion to be a very welcoming place with just great people. Great people.
That sounds wonderful.
And talented people, because the bards, as you said, write poetry and play music. We have individuals who we've done also entertainment where we've actually performed shows for ourselves.
Right.
And so
that sounds fun.
Yeah, and it's challenging, it's stimulating, and everybody gets involved, but it's also the talent that we bring to the community.
So do people do a whole, what sort of shows have you put on?
Last spring we had, I would imagine close to 50 people involved with the production of Gilbert and Sullivan's Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, how wonderful!
That was fantastic. It was a crazy amount of work.
Yes,
weekly rehearsal. I'd say 3-hour rehearsals weekly for several months. and, as I said, a cast of dozens. But it went very, very well and was a lot of fun. In previous years, we've kind of done talent shows, reviews. Some folks will sing, some will dance, do short skits.
Storytelling.
All kinds of things, really. Storytelling, yes, yeah.
So this was your first venture into operetta?
Yes, definitely.
And are you going to repeat it?
I don't know.
Or will you do something completely different next time?
That's actually being discussed kind of right now. Actually, is what we want to do. What we want to do.
Right.
Do next.
Right. Well, look forward to news coming out about it. Now, I can gather from you, V, that people can play several roles at once. Suze, you just said that we expect people to be adults, and so we generally maintain a moderate rating. We'll have to see what makes sense. The operetta was a massive effort and a lot of fun for everyone in the community, she says. Now, I was going to turn to V, and I know that people can play several roles in the community, but you're playing two very sort of opposing roles. A gypsy who is seen as the eternal rebel, really, and very in tune with nature, and the knights, who at a guess I would say are kind of formal, bureaucratic, and more disciplined, yes. Isn't that something of a contrast? Well, how did you come to be playing those two very different roles?
Well, it was interesting because when I first came to Avilion as a human, I was sort of just ambling around looking what to do, and the gypsies were reforming. They were coming back to the fold, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think we started a group where we can express, some of us do read fortunes in real life or role play that, and we wanted to express that. Some of us just like to dance, entertain, and do it with a little bit more formal structure. So the gypsies, we are lighthearted, we are entertaining, and we are fun. But after my years there, I've been in Avilion for almost, like I said, 5 years. I wanted to give back to the community, and I saw how the knights and the rangers and all the combat classes are so involved with learning their skills and the discipline and the honor it is to serve the community. So it was a major decision because I had avoided combat for about 4 years. And it took me an entire year of learning the skills that were necessary, and there were lessons and practice, and it took me a whole year to go from squire to a proud knight. And it was one of the best things I've ever done, and it was an amazing ceremony and an honor to be in my knight house. Yes.
That does sound fantastic.
It was.
Can I ask, usually knights are seen as protecting the community and the realm, but usually under the control of a king. Are there kings and queens in Avilion?
Well, there are the leaders. There's Serenity and Mal, basically, are our leaders, and we have elders. But I'm going to defer to Susie about that for king and queen. Really not a king and queen.
Made the decision early on not to have royalty in Avilion. That sounds fair enough. We had a lord and lady, but those titles also no longer exist. So she's just the tax collector. It doesn't say who you're collecting taxes for. You're just collecting taxes because it has to be done. Someone has to do it.
That was the subject of a recent role play. It was a lot of fun. We had a bit of a rebellion
Right.
Some bridges started falling down. The place was a little unkempt. Some folks felt that our tax money was not being used wisely.
Right.
And so there was a rebellion. Some people tried to hijack a shipment of gold. All kinds of fun.
That sounds
that went
really
on for a
fun.
couple of months, and really was great. Really was great.
Oh, that sounds like good fun. And all of it, of course, gets chronicled. Does the Avilion Chronicle appear online, or is it just a note card in World?
It's a note card in World right now, and it's also available in the Avilion also has a library where many, I'd say the majority of the poetry produced by the bards, many of the stories produced by other residents who may or may not belong to the bards, and then all 219, I think, issues of the Avilion Chronicle are available.
Wow.
Which is really amazing. I know Menkor, who's in the audience, has worked for the Chronicle a very long time.
That's amazing. That a publication like that has been going for so long, because it's an awful lot of work.
Yeah,
And there's so many
227.
contributors.
227 editions, yep.
Wow. That is impressive. Very impressive. So, if I can ask, do the groups keep very much to themselves, or is there kind of a mingling between species? In a moderate way, of course.
Well, we mingle. We mingle at the drum circle, and we're all. There are so many friends we have across the different characters. I mean, I'm friends with dragons and elves and drow, and we do so many things together. It's one big. Well, it's one happy family, I think. Except as I look at Set in the audience, maybe with like a stray cousin or two that you really don't want to have talking to you.
Oh dear.
We have quite a few real characters in every sense of the word, I think. But I think that that's one of the things about Avilion that has always appealed to me most, is that in many of the role-play sims I've been to, there's a lot of internal conflict in the sense of things like we're the elves and we don't like humans, or we're this group and we don't like this group, and really in Avilion it's a community kind of all working together, and we have disagreements, but they're usually just all in fun. Sort of friendly rivalries, rather than real strife.
That's excellent.
I think we all have plenty of that in our real lives.
Yes, and have seen it in other communities and communities breaking up, I dare say, which is always terribly sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ava just pointed out and said it well from the audience. She's also a gypsy. Waves to my gypsy Ava friend, my Shia. And she said no drama. And that's what one of the principles of Avilion is, no drama.
Right. Role play, but no drama.
Right.
That sounds great. So, can you tell me something about some of the locations that people can visit? Obviously, you can't visit everywhere because they're private. But what sort of areas are publicly accessible?
Well, the main one, when you first come to Avilion, is the heart. And literally, it is the heart of the land, because that's where many people gather. It's where the quartermaster location is to welcome you, where we have our charter and free clothing for those who don't have medieval garb.
Right.
We have the drum circle where many people just gather and have fun and talk and jest. And we have the Gypsy Camp, a plug for the Gypsy Camp over there.
Yeah.
And the Bard Circle is there where the bards gather. And the tavern is. Well, then you go to Grove, which has, of course, the stunning ballroom.
Right.
Which is a beautiful romantic location. And it also has our shops where some of our residents have shops for clothing and items that you can buy. And our tavern, which is wonderful.
I know that an Avilion mist cloak was one of the very first things I bought, I think, to wear. An awesome medieval cloak.
I think that was the first thing I bought, too. Even before I was in Avilion, I think I went to the shop and bought a cloak.
Yeah, because they are the best. Mm-hmm. Simply the best. So, what other public sims are there? Is that...
There's the Nexus, the Avilion Nexus, which is our combat area. The Nexus is comprised of 5 floating islands. The landing point is a central island, and from there you can go to, a jousting list, sword arena, an archery range, and a mage arena, a magic arena.
So wonderful.
Often be classes there, folks practicing, trying out new weapons, trying out, all sorts of tricks. And then down below is sort of the main combat area. That's where we hold most of our scenarios and training exercises. Right,
I see. I suppose it's easier to sort of keep it clean when there's no actual fighting going on in the same location.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I'm sorry, I was going to add, we have added this year an area above the Nexus where many of the people who have a lot of experience with combat in Avilion have been creating their own builds to use for different combat scenarios, and that's been a lot of fun over the last year, especially.
I can imagine that must be fun. What about So is the Nexus, do you have a kind of ladder of fighting skills? What do you just fight and that's it, or do you have like Victor for a day or something?
Well, each combat group has sort of a beginner level and then an advanced level. In the Rangers, I'm a Ranger. And when you join the Rangers, you join as an archer. Mm-hmm. You have to take a few tests, go to a few classes. In the Rangers, we work with a mentor. And after some period of time, and after you accomplish certain tasks, you then take your test to become a full Ranger. And each of the combat classes has a sort of laddered structure like that. Each year, as part of the Avilion Harvest Festival, which is every October, we also have the Harvest Festival Games. And that's a series of combat events. And I believe there is a Harvest Festival champion every year. And that's pretty fun.
Mm. A little way off yet, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it's never too early to plan.
Never too early to practice.
I wish I could impress this on various people that I work with. Yeah. So, do you have any sort of long ongoing stories, or do you tend to deal with short stories? Sort of maybe an evening's role play, maybe at most a week's role play. Or do you actually have kind of longer, more involved stories that advance the whole plot in that sim?
Well, I think we've done both kinds. we have had some that are just impromptu role plays that happen. A group starts one and then involves others, and it may be a week. I remember one time there was a role play about me that I had to be cleansed with a garlic bath. Why do I remember that?
I would say that's the kind of vivid experience one doesn't forget in a hurry.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, garlic baths loom large in your life.
No, and it worked, so to speak, but people were staying away from me for about a week, if I remember. And then we've had, as Sarah mentioned before, the role play that just ended, which was about, I'd say a good 6 weeks, wasn't it, Sarah?
Oh, at least 6 weeks, maybe 8 or 10
Longer.
weeks even. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. And, of course, if people miss a bit, they can keep up with the Chronicle, I presume.
Exactly.
And like Susie just said, we tend to focus on personalities and settings than on the narrative. Our fun is interactions rather than stories. Although, as V says, stories can spontaneously happen, and many can be quite fun.
That's very interesting. An interesting idea spin on roleplay. That looks really very interesting.
It does allow for a lot more spontaneity.
Crashed again.
Nope,
I've gone down.
I think I still have you, Savvy.
We still hear you.
Yeah, but I have definitely...
Uh-oh.
The screen has gone black.
Don't move.
I was going to say that, or I should start belly dancing just to fill in time here.
Maybe. I'm sorry, I really don't know what's doing this. It's usually my connection's very good. Seemingly my voice is fine still. You can all hear me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you actually see me sitting there?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Good. I can't read any text at the moment,
okay.
but I can...
We can read for you.
Thank you. So do you find that there are particular communities who take the lead in roleplay, or is it pretty much shared between all of you?
I think over time... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, V.
No, I was going to say individuals, don't you think, Sarah? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say individuals as well. I think what seems to happen is that it sort of flows through the years, that certain people will kind of maybe pick up the baton and do a couple of and take over a couple of role play stories for a certain period of time, and then someone else will just kind of naturally step in and take over. I think it's really amazing how that's happened. I've been very impressed with that over the years.
Do you think it's something because you are such a... Well, I guess it is, fairly obviously, because you're a closely knit community. Yay, voice is back. I think I've unfrozen.
Oh, okay, great.
Closely knit, but also so many people have been here for so long
Mm-hmm.
and have a history with Avilion. And
Right.
that helps so much because they're talented individuals who've been here and can foster the role play.
Fantastic. Having said that, how easy would it be for a newcomer to come along and become involved in Avilion?
Very easy. Very easy.
Yes.
You just come to Avilion Heart, check out the charter, which just describes Avilion and our character types and roles, and decide what you might like to do, and then just start to get to know people. And I think as you get to know people and spend time there, you kind of figure out where you might want to fit in. I think sometimes it can be a little daunting because we're such a tight-knit community that newcomers can sometimes feel like, oh, I'm kind of on the outside here. But I think that goes away quickly if you just give yourself a little time to let people get to know you and to get to know them.
And also, we have greeters who greet most people as they come to Avilion, and just to make them feel comfortable. And as Asteria said, we give tours.
That's fantastic. So that really helps people. Yes, Susie just said everyone was new here once, even the three of us, and we tried to be as welcoming as possible. Well, that sounds great. That sounds very encouraging for people who might want to start getting into this kind of role play. It would be fun to do and fun to have a community to explore.
And practically every event is open to the public. You don't have to be an order member to join in. I do feel bad for people who show up for administrative type meetings, but, but in general, they're a lot of fun.
It's like we apologize right away up front. So and our calendar of events is online. We do have it on the web, and we have the calendar of events all over, even in the Chronicle.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And I know that people are encouraged to go to the ballroom and just dance and enjoy it because it's so gorgeous.
Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I'm going to open this up to the floor and see if there's anyone who would like to ask some questions.
Oh, Mencor just put the calendar website on there.
Yes, so if anyone needs it, the calendar is just now in chat. So does anyone have any questions for the Avilion? Someone's typing frantically.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone bring cookies? Nope, no cookies.
Did anyone bring cookies? I have cake. I always travel with cake. It just seems, yeah. I have when we were doing the Primgraph magazine, the Primgraph magazine was for steampunk communities, and we sometimes found ourselves in danger, you know, if there was a rebellion going on somewhere or something like that. And we therefore, I instructed my staff to defend themselves in two ways. First of all, I found we had a mantra, which was that if you found yourself in a situation of danger or difficulty, you were to utter the magic words, "Do you have a quote for the Primgraph?" And you would find that most villains would actually stop trying to kill you and start thinking about their PR. It was really, really very effective. But as a backup system, I instructed people to carry cake. Sometimes it was possible to distract even attacking dragons with the judicious placement of an iced tea cake or a slice of Battenberg, which is particularly valued by British people of a certain age.
Oh, lovely.
So, yeah, Battenberg cake is rather special. So, yes, judiciously placing that in people's paths would usually protect us. Yes, Susie's right. No one wants to kill the press. You need them for your write-ups later on. And do help yourselves to cake if you want. This cake is freely available to anyone who would like some.
Oh, thank you so much.
So does anyone have any other questions? I think there's quite a few from the Avilion community here, so maybe they don't have quite so many questions about it.
Oh, I'm sure they'll question us later.
I'm going to be in trouble for my unfriendly drow comment.
Well, I have a question, which is, do you have any particular plans for the Avilion community? Several of you here on the platform have, I am sure, the ability to see into the future. And I wonder if you could share that, a little of the future with us.
Well, I'll defer to the gypsy on that one.
I was going to say, that's my skill. Oh, gee. If we could just whip out the cards here and give it a go, but...
Yeah, talk about putting you on the spot, yes.
But I'll tell you, I think, as I said, I've seen many changes in the 5 years I've been involved with the community. And I saw that set. Don't worry, I'll get you later. Gypsies can't tell the future. But, I can see newcomers arrive, which strengthens the community, and I can see where we are our community. We have dwellings there, people live there, but we're always changing, reinventing, just small things here and there to make ourselves different, diverse, stronger. And I think that'll continue. And I look towards Lady Susie here because, as one of our administration people, I'm sure there's plans that are always in the works.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that may be unpopular now. And has the coming of Mesh had much impact on Avilion? Susie says we are Fae, so we don't really think about the future. We take it a day at a time. In all seriousness, the community really chooses its own directions, and if we get good proposals that get popular support, we take things in that direction.
Speaking of Mesh, I've only bought a few Mesh things, but I'm not a fan of bad Mesh. Let's put it that way.
Yes, it can be extremely limited. Yes.
Yes.
And there seems to be general agreement with this.
I don't know. I bought this hair in 2008, so...
Oh, gee.
You can possibly get away with darker hair for longer. The texturing that they've brought in on blonde hair has been... you've needed to keep up with, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Susie's responded here.
Yeah, Susie says, as far as Mesh, we think it can have a great impact in terms of our surroundings. We try to upgrade the Sims to the best looking things available. So when good Mesh things becomes available, we use them.
Yes, because some of the landscape designers are now starting to bring out some good plants. Susie says, we are hoping that server-side baking will reduce lag on the sim. That's something we've struggled with for a number of years. And people have pointed out good mesh things like petite mesh avatars.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and the petites have been wonderful. Do you have many petites in Avilion? Are you petite friendly?
Oh, yeah. I've seen them. Yeah, we have many petites. They're great. Yes, Susie's a petite herself half the time. Absolutely.
I remember at last year's Fantasy Fair, Angie and I were directing an episode of Happy Hunting, and we both put on petites because we'd just bought sort of petite costumes at the fair. And so you had these two tiny fairies stomping around, bossing everyone and telling them what to do. It was, and actually it wasn't very effective because we'd say, okay, look, we need to get on with the show now, come on. And they go, oh, so cute, aren't they cute when they stamp their little feet? Ah!
Well, I'm looking in the audience. There's Asteria. She's a little petite. There she is. She's part of our community. Yeah.
The prettiest and the smartest, yes. And humble too. Modest, I think, is the word you're looking for, yes. Properly modest little petites. Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Okay, well, I think we've probably covered the main points. I would just like to, before we finish, ask you about these pictures behind us. Can you tell me a little about them?
Oh, these pictures, gosh, I believe have been taken, over the last 7 years in Avilion.
Right.
And, just as a whole represent what you can expect when you visit Avilion since 2006.
Fantastic. Well, that's a lovely way of making your first acquaintance with Avilion, but it's no substitute for actually going there. That's right. What I say.
I agree.
And I just want to put a plug in. You will see Avilion at the Relay for Life weekend, because we do have always a campsite there. So you'll see us out in force, and it's going to be fun, and it'll be part of our theme as medieval. So we'll be there. Are you doing
an art build this year? Because you've done some stunning ones. I remember the huge tree you had to travel through the middle of, and the sort of King Arthur's court. Are you going to be doing a build this year?
Yes, we will be doing a build this year. I'm speaking because I'm captain of our team, but yes, we'll be doing a build this year. We're happy and proud.
Fantastic. To be there. That's wonderful. Well, I'll certainly look out for you there, and of course, Designing Worlds will be there too.
Fantastic.
So that would be great. Okay. Well, we're a little past the hour now, so I'm going to say thank you to everyone who came for coming. Thank you to all the audience, and thank you very much to my 3 guests, Cyric Freenote, V. Tamas, and Susie Sewell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Saffia.
It's been brilliant, and it's been fascinating to learn more about Avilion. So everyone grab cake if you want to, because I'm going to take that up in a minute.
Okay.
And now is your time to grab the cake.